everybody and welcome to Flock Talk. Today we're going to be doing the highly requested tutorial of how to teach your bird to step up. Good boy, Newt! So Newt is going to be my little helper here today since he was a semi-tame conure. He had not been taught how to step up properly. So we went through and it took about 3 sessions to get him properly, thoroughly stepping up between my hands nice and calmly. So he did really well and the tutorial didn't take too long. The most important thing to remember with stepping up is that it's not a command. Step up is a question that you're asking your bird and you don't want to be forcing them to do it if they don't want to. Step up is asking your bird if they want to come up and interact with you. If they say no, you need to figure out why they don't want to be interacting with you. Not force them to do it anyways because that's what you want. So the biggest thing you can do is use positive reinforcement to encourage your bird to want to interact with you and take a look at your surroundings to see why your bird may not want to be stepping up. So we're going to hop right into it here and teach you guys how to teach your bird to step up. So the first thing I want to emphasize here is that Newt does not know how to step up, despite the fact that he will stand on me and interact with me. He has never been trained to properly step up. So what I'm going to do here is use target training, which he was recently taught a little bit ago, and I'm going to use that to help encourage him to interact more with my hands. Now, the method I'm using right here, where I'm making my hand an extension of the perch, is one of the best methods to use when you're teaching a bird to step up. And the reason for this is because it's a lot easier for a bird to do than it is for them to take a full extra step. It's a lot easier for Newt or any bird that may be having some form of fear to a hand. It's a lot easier for them to shuffle across the perch and get closer to it than it is for them to take that one big step over to you. So if you have a bird that's scared or afraid, this is one really great way to give them a smaller step to slowly start interacting with your hands. Just making it a little bit easier for them, and it'll help the whole process go quite a bit quicker. So all I'm going to do here is have my hand gripping the end of the perch, making it one nice flat line, a continuous perch, and I'm going to use my target stick to slowly get him to go and shimmy towards my hand. Now, as I already stated, Newt is not afraid of hands, so he has no issue kind of walking over and stepping up onto mine. If your bird's a little more timid and afraid, they may just stop right in the middle of the perch, and that's okay. You want to be rewarding the bird for any sort of progress they make towards your hand, not necessarily just stepping up onto it or touching it, but if they look at your hand or slowly shimmy over, whatever your bird is most comfortable with and whatever state that they're at that point in time is going to determine what you reward them for. As long as they're showing interest in your hand and are willing to take some sort of steps to move towards it, even if it's just reaching out their head a little bit, that is definitely better than nothing, and we want to reward them for that. So once we've got Newt here kind of stepping on and off my hand pretty easily, the one thing we want to make sure we're doing is asking him to come off. We don't want to be suddenly moving our hands and pulling him away, because doing that, if you have a bird that's very afraid of hands or a bird that's clipped and needs to be able to leave a situation, is the bird can get very afraid, feel extremely unstable, and start to associate all of those feelings with your hand, which is what we don't want. If I've got Newt stepping up onto my hand, I want him to know that my hand is not going to move. My hand is not going to rip him away from something and force him into a situation. All my hand is going to do is stay there. So Newt can choose that he wants to walk onto my hand or walk right back off if he at any point doesn't like how close he is to me or anything else in the situation. So Newt, very quickly, as we can see here, took to this. He walks right up onto me no problem and is willing to walk right back off. It's important to do this step because we want to determine a bird's comfortability with our hands, because if he's super uncomfortable, we're not going to be able to move to the next step, which is going to be putting our hands in front of him, but very close to the perch, and letting him slowly step up onto it. So that next little step here, I'm just going to very lightly place my hand in front of Newt. Now, the distance you place it at is going to be dependent on your bird. If your bird is super uncomfortable with you moving your hand around them, you may not want to jump to this step quite yet, because obviously your bird isn't fully comfortable being around your hand and all sorts of things like that. So you may need to step back, but if your bird is still eagerly moving around your hands and okay with your hand being in front of them, this is a perfectly alright step to start moving towards. So little Newt here is already pretty eager to hop right on. Your bird may only put one foot on, they may reach up their foot and then change their minds. Like I've said before, all of those things are perfectly acceptable as long as your bird is showing some sort of interest in your hand. The odds are they're not going to step up right away like Newt did here. It's going to take a little bit of time for him to get used to it. So all I'm going to do is use the exact same things I was using before, except I'm going to be having my hand in front of Newt and the target stick just behind. Over time we will be fading out the target stick, but for now this is something that Newt will reliably follow to get from one point to another. So all I'm going to do is place my hand gently in front of him and I'm not going to be touching his belly. I'm not going to start pushing into him and forcing him to step up. I'm just going to place it a safe distance away from him where he's not displaying any uncomfortable body language, and he can very easily step up onto my hand without having to stretch or force himself into any sort of discomforts in order to step up onto my finger. So all I'm going to do is put my hand in front of him and very gently ask him to step up. If he starts getting distracted or nibbly, I'm going to want to regain his focus, maybe make it a little bit of an easier target for him to get to. And if you see that I'm asking him to step up or anything, and your bird suddenly starts getting uncomfortable or that's super hesitant to do something, take some steps back. Don't have your hand so close to them. Maybe you can put your hand back to the end of the perch. Birds will suddenly decide they're uncomfortable with something even if they've done it 1,000 times before, and it's important that we let them have that discomfort and that we don't push them past that boundary. We just take a couple steps back, show them that our hand's not going to hurt them, and they'll be ready to eagerly step up. So as we can see, Newt's grown quite a little bit here. He's gone from not thinking anything of it when my hand's in front of him to almost jumping onto my hand at this point, because he is so excited to hop onto my hand and earn some treats. So far, my hand's not been associated with anything negative. It hasn't been associated with me having to grab him or restrain him. So me doing this is not really associated with any negative experiences. And the more I keep doing this training, the more I reward him for stepping up, the more eager he's going to be to interact with me and immediately know that my hand is going to be something positive. So what I'm going to start doing now that Newt is so eager to step up is I'm going to start phasing out that target stick. Because obviously when I'm asking him to step up, I don't want to have a stick on me all the time. I want to be able to just have my fingers in front of him and have him know that that means I want him to step up. So all I'm going to do is slowly bring the target stick back and back. And unfortunately you can't quite make it out in the video because I did have it zoomed in a little bit too much. But I'm just going to move the stick further away and a little bit lower so it's almost hiding behind my hand a small bit and just slightly visible. Another thing you can do is just slide the target stick back in your hand, so less and less of the target stick is visible to Newt, and over time the target stick will be completely encapsulated by your hand and not visible at all, making it so that way you can just place your hand in front of Newt and he will be able to target. Another thing you can do to help phase this out is the way in which you are asking for this behavior. So instead of putting the target stick first and then my hand, what he's going to notice is that my hand is going first and then the target stick, which means he's going to start to associate these two behaviors and know that when I put my hand there, the target stick's going to show up shortly and he needs to hop up on my hand. He's going to start making that connection, which will make removing that target stick a whole lot easier. And as you can see right here, Newt's already figured that out pretty strongly. The second my hand shows up, he has to jump on it. And he knows that really, really well at this point, and he's going to really reliably start using it. Some birds will take quite a bit longer to help phase out the target stick, but you never know, and your bird may just end up jumping through this as fast as Newt did. So we've got Newt here really willingly to hop onto my hand, and the one thing I do need to remind you is that we don't want to be moving our hands too much. Even though Newt is comfortable with my hand, I'm still not super familiar with his body language or his general behaviors and what does and does not upset him. He's very new to my household, and I don't want to do things that could potentially end up causing him stress if I don't need to. So when I'm asking him to step up, I don't want to be moving my hands a whole ton and moving him around and behind the perch right off the bat. I'm going to want to be keeping my hand relatively still and just asking him to turn around and step off on his own. This way, Newt can still comfortably leave the situation whenever he wants. I'm not pulling my hand away and moving it into all sorts of places that are going to make him uncomfortable. I'm just keeping my hand perfectly still, and he can turn around and leave if he decides he doesn't want to be on me. And this way, if my hand stays perfectly still, there's no possible way that I'm going to shimmy and move and throw him off balance, which could end up causing an aggressive response from him. I'm going to keep my hand relatively still and let him step off throughout this entire process until I can see that he is perfectly calm. So once Newt is perfectly calm and I'm able to move my hand a little bit with him, as I was able to get at the end there, where I can then put my hand behind the perch and ask Newt to step up, I'm going to start asking him to step up from hand to hand, because from perch to hand and hand to hand can be two very different things. And at the very beginning, which I unfortunately cut out here, Newt was actually trying to climb up my arms and get anywhere else except for right by my hands. So we want to make sure that we do this practice. Even though your bird reliably steps up off of a perch, doesn't mean they're going to reliably step up onto your hands. So all I'm going to do here is the same thing I was doing from the perch, is I'm going to place my hand in front of Newt, try and stay relatively still, although I wasn't that great at it, and just ask him to gently step up. I'm still going to do this training right close to his cage, so if he decides that he needs to leave, he can turn around and just hop onto his cage, and no problems at all. I don't want to be doing this over the floor or over somewhere really high or in the middle of nowhere where Newt might start to feel trapped or uncomfortable or like he's going to fall. Because as I said before, Newt did have a pretty nasty clip job done to him, so if he jumps and needs to leave, he could end up hurting himself. So right now I'm going to be doing this kind of over my desk and right next to his cage where he can jump off and feel safe if he decides he doesn't like what I'm doing at any point in time. All I'm going to do here is ask Newt to step up just one single time and he will earn a treat. And we can see that he picks up really quickly. I'm putting my hand in front of him and he is hopping over to my hand. Not even stepping up anymore, he's hopping up. And he's doing a really adorably great job. So we can start to introduce multiple step-ups in one situation. Because obviously in a real situation, you don't want to have to be giving him a treat every single time you ask him to step up. But for right now it's important to do that because we want him to be reinforced with the concept of stepping up onto hands. But what we can start to introduce once he's doing it without any hesitations is doing multiple step-ups before he earns a treat. So when first doing this, don't immediately jump into doing 4 step-ups in a row and making them do that 4th step-up. Odds are they're going to get frustrated and not understand why they're earning a treat anymore. So what I am going to start doing is just getting Newt to step up twice. It's just one additional hop, he should be good to do it. And he does. He does it really well, and he actually goes so far as to hop multiple times in a row because he wants that treat and he knows what he's doing. He's being one smart boy. So I'm just going to slowly start to do these in more sporadic orders. I'm going to ask him to do it twice, and then I might ask him to do it 3 times. I might go back down to doing 2 step-ups, up to 4, and we're going to bounce all over the board so he has no idea how many step-ups he has to do to earn a reward. And this is important because this type of reinforcement helps encourage a behavior to continue even when it's not being directly reinforced with a primary reinforcer. A primary reinforcer is something the bird wants the most, so in this case, Newt wants treats. A secondary reinforcer can be something like words or excitement, which is what he's going to be getting most of the time when he steps up all throughout the house throughout the day. So doing that secondary form of reinforcement, he's still getting reinforced, just not as strongly as he will from these treats. Initially, the training's not going to stop here. I'm going to be having it so that way if I'm sitting at my desk, I'm going to randomly ask him to step up off my shoulder, and I will be sure to give him treats for that. The rest of the time, he's going to get lots of excitement, me telling him he's a good boy. Maybe he'll get taken to somewhere fun with lots of toys. There we go. And he's going to have a great experience either way. But because I'm doing this training where he doesn't know how many step-ups he has to do to earn a treat, his brain's going to be thinking, I'm going to get a reward for doing this eventually, I just don't know when. So it's going to take a little bit of time for him to fully grasp onto that concept, but he will end up realizing that he gets something positive either way. It's just not necessarily food, which will encourage Newt to continue presenting this behavior even if he's not being directly reinforced for it. So that's going to about do it for this video. I hope you guys learned something there, and I hope it went over rather well. I know we skip through quite a bit of things and move a little bit quickly sometimes because this guy just enjoys learning things just a little bit too quickly, which makes making training tutorials a little bit difficult, but he did really well and I'm very proud of this little guy. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if there's any more you'd like to see in the future, please leave a comment down below and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!